$8,400 gone. Not stolen, not hidden. I gave it away by answering questions I didn't know were traps. Okay, so I want you to think back to the last time you walked into a car dealership. The dealer never lied to me once. Every tactic I'm about to show you is completely legal. That's what makes it dangerous. Here are the 5 questions that quietly cost people thousands and how to shut them down. You're a grown man with a real job and a real paycheck. You know how money works. You're not walking in blind. Here's the uncomfortable question I want to ask you. How do you actually know it worked? Because here's the thing about being taken advantage of at a car dealership. You don't feel it. There's no alarm that goes off, no moment where you think, wait, something's wrong here. You just sign the papers, shake some hands, drive home in a new car, and feel pretty good about yourself. The manipulation is specifically designed to feel like a fair deal. A friend of mine, software engineer, maxes his 401k, reads the fine print, spent 2 weeks researching before buying a car, drove home feeling like he won. I ran his numbers later, just out of curiosity. The dealer had added 1.8% to his interest rate through something called dealer reserve. He'd never heard of it. Over his 60-month loan, that one invisible markup cost him $1,900, just gone, silently, legally, on a deal he felt good about. He got a CS degree, he codes for a living, and he still got played, not because he was stupid, but because he didn't know which 5 questions to never answer. That's what this video is about. I've spent years studying how dealerships actually make money. Here's what the training manuals say that you were never supposed to see. If any of this hits close to home, stay until question 3. That's the one most people never see coming. Now let's get into it. Before I give you the 5 specific questions, I need to give you the mental framework that makes everything else make sense. Here's the thing. Most people walk into a dealership thinking the negotiation is about the price of the car. Like, I'll try to get them down, they'll try to keep it up, and wherever we land is the deal. That is not how dealerships think about this. Everyone walks in fighting over the car price. That's exactly what the dealer wants you to focus on, because the car price is actually their smallest profit center. The real money? It's in 3 places you're not watching, and the 5 questions I'm about to show you are designed to unlock all 3 while you're distracted arguing about sticker price. Now, here's what most people don't realize. The front-end profit, the part everyone fights over, is actually the smallest. According to NADA data, the average dealer makes somewhere between $600 and $800 of profit on a new car sale. That's it. $600 on a $30, $40, $50,000 purchase. So why do dealerships stay in business? Why are they insanely profitable? Because they make their real money in the other 3 buckets. And specifically, they make it by asking you questions whose answers help them manipulate those 3 buckets in ways you'll never see coming. Each of the 5 questions I'm about to walk through is designed to drain one of those profit buckets directly from your wallet. When you know which question maps to which bucket, you stop playing checkers and start playing chess. All right, let's go through them one by one. Question number 1. What monthly payment are you looking for? This is the single most dangerous question in the entire dealership, and it sounds so innocent. It sounds like they're trying to help you. Hey, we just want to make sure this works for your budget. Look, they are not trying to help your budget. They are trying to take control of the entire negotiation with a single question. Here's how this works mechanically, because the math is genuinely shocking. Let's say you're buying a car and the right price, the fair market price, is $32,000. You know this, you've done your research. But instead of negotiating the price, you tell the salesperson, I'm looking to stay around $500 a month. That answer just told them everything. They now know your ceiling, and here's what they do with it. They can sell you that same car at $35,000, extend your loan to 72 months instead of 60, tweak the interest rate up slightly, and land you at $498 a month, $2 under your stated limit. You feel like you won. You didn't win. You just paid $3,000 more than the car was worth and signed up for a loan 6 months longer than you needed, and you left feeling good about it. This is called payment manipulation, and it's the foundation of how dealership finance departments are structured. Now, here's where this gets really interesting, because I want to talk about something almost nobody mentions in these types of videos. It's called a dealer reserve or a financial reserve, and it is one of the quietly profitable scams in consumer finance. When you apply for financing through a dealership, what happens behind the scenes is this. The dealer submits your credit application to multiple lenders. Each lender comes back with what's called the buy rate. That is the real interest rate you qualify for based on your credit score, your income, the vehicle. That's the real number, the rate you actually deserve. The dealer is not required to show you that number. They are not required to pass it along to you. What they do instead is add a markup, typically between 1 and 2.5%, and present you with the higher rate as if it's just the offer. The difference between what the lender offered and what you're paying, the dealer keeps as pure profit on every single payment for the life of your loan. MIT researchers found that 78 out of every 100 dealer-arranged loans have an inflated interest rate baked in. Not occasionally, not in shady dealerships, 78 out of 100. Statistically, if you've ever financed through a dealer, you were almost certainly in that group. Let me show you what 1.13% actually costs you. $30,000 loan, 60 months at 6% interest. Monthly payment, $580. Total interest paid over the life of the loan, $4,800.
Now add 1.13%, you're at 7.13%. Monthly payment, $595. Feels basically the same, right? $15 a month, who cares? Total interest paid, $5,750. That's nearly $1,000 more in interest. Gone, invisible, on a completely legal transaction that the dealer had zero obligation to disclose to you. And remember, the average dealer makes $600 profit on the car itself, which means the financing markup alone on a single deal can be worth more than the entire front-end gross. This is why some dealerships will actually decline a sale if you insist on using your own pre-arranged financing, because without that finance reserve, the deal barely makes them money. So what do? Never, ever answer the monthly payment question. If they ask you what payment you're looking for, your answer is, I'm focused on the out-the-door price. Once we agree on that, I'll handle the financing conversation separately. And before you step foot in a dealership, you get pre-approved. Go to your credit union, go to your bank, get a rate in writing. Now, when the dealer offers you financing, you have a benchmark. You know if they're adding to it. And if they can beat your pre-approved rate legitimately, great. But at least now you can see the field. Question number 2, what are you driving now? / do you have a trade-in? This one feels like the most normal question in the world. It's small talk. You're at a car dealership. Of course they're curious about what you drive. But here's what's actually happening. The moment you reveal your trade-in, you have just handed the dealer a second variable to play with, and a skilled negotiator always wants more variables, because more variables mean more ways to win while making you feel like you won. The moment you mention a trade-in, you handed them a second lever. Now they can lose on the car price and win on the trade, and you'll feel like you got 2 good deals. You didn't. You just gave them 2 ways to take your money instead of 1. This is exactly what happens with trade-ins at a dealership. Here's the psychological mechanic that makes this so effective. You think your car is worth more than it is. That's not a flaw, it's human nature. Dealers are trained specifically around this. They open with a trade-in number that feels just credible enough to stop you from walking out. The dealer knows this. They're trained to open with a number that feels high enough to be credible and low enough to leave room. And here's the thing. Even when the trade-in offer sounds generous, the markup on what they resell your car for is enormous. Dealer to dealer, used cars are sold at auction. The spread between what a dealer pays you for a trade and what they put that same car on the lot for can easily be $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. Now you might be thinking, okay, but I can negotiate my trade-in separately. I know what my car is worth. Sure, but only if you negotiate it separately. The problem is that most buyers bring up the trade-in at the very beginning, before any numbers on the new car have been discussed. Once that's on the table, Every number the dealer presents to you is contaminated. They're simultaneously managing the car price, the trade value, your monthly payment, and their overall gross. And they're doing it in real time while you're trying to figure out if $34,000 is a good price. Here's what most people don't realize. The trade-in conversation should happen after you've agreed on an out-the-door price for the new vehicle. Not before, not during, after. You get the new car price locked in writing, and then you say, okay, now let's talk about my trade. At that point, the two negotiations are clean. They can't use one to offset the other. One more thing on this. Before you go to the dealership, get your trade-in appraised. CarMax will give you a written offer. Carvana will give you an offer. Even your own dealer's website often has an instant appraisal tool. Get 3 numbers, write them down. Now you walk in with market data instead of just a feeling. And here's a little piece of information that almost nobody uses. If a car has been sitting on a dealer's lot for more than 45 days, the dealer is under significant pressure to move it. Most dealers operate on floor plan financing, meaning they're paying interest to have that car sitting there. Ask your salesperson, how long has this specific vehicle been on the lot? If the answer is 6 weeks or more, combined with knowing it's near the end of the month, you have real negotiating leverage that most buyers never bother to find. Question number 3, are you buying today? This one is so subtle that most people don't even register it as a dangerous question. It sounds administrative, like they just want to know your timeline. But every single experienced salesperson knows that the answer to this question tells them exactly how much pressure to apply and exactly how many tactics to deploy. If you say yes, they know they have you. They know you've already made the emotional decision. The car has already won. Now the negotiation is just about extracting the maximum from someone who's committed. If you say no, they'll try to convert you. This is where the urgency tactics come out. This is actually the last one in this color. We had 3 people looking at this model yesterday. I can't guarantee this price will pass today. Here's the thing. That urgency is almost always manufactured. Former dealer managers have confirmed this on record. The other buyers interested tactic is one of the first things salespeople are trained on because it works so well on the human brain. Why does it work? Because we have a deeply hardwired fear of scarcity. When something feels rare, it becomes more valuable to us. The FOMO response, fear of missing out, bypasses our logical brain almost entirely. You can know intellectually that the salesperson is probably lying. You can tell yourself it doesn't matter, and still feel a pull to make a decision before you're ready. This is by design. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. The question, are you buying today, is also the setup for something called the porcupine close. This is an actual named technique that's taught in sales training programs. Here's how it works. Once you've shown any level of interest in a car, the salesperson will ask a question like, if I could get you this car at $490 a month, is that what it would take for you to buy today? Or if I can find this in the midnight blue you wanted, would you be ready to move forward? Both of those sound like the salesperson is trying to help you. They're not. They're asking you to reveal your exact buying trigger, the thing that, if satisfied, will make you say yes. And once they give you that trigger, they will pull it, probably in the next 10 minutes. The right answer to "are you buying today" is a version of the same phrase every time. I'm still evaluating. I don't make financial decisions on the same day. That's it. Don't elaborate, don't justify. Don't say, I need to think about it, because that invites a follow-up of, what would you need to think about, which is just another version of asking for your trigger. I don't make financial decisions on the same day. Full stop. Watch how the energy in the room changes. You have just signaled that you are not a same-day close, and a good salesperson will adjust from pressure tactics to genuine product selling because they know pressure won't work on you.
Question number 4. What's your budget? Question 4 sounds like the most sensible thing in the world to answer. That's why it's the most expensive mistake on this list. Knowing your budget, smart. Saying it out loud in a dealership, you just handed the F&I manager a roadmap. Nothing is wrong with knowing your budget. Everything is wrong with sharing it. Here's the analogy I want you to hold on to. Your stated budget becomes their floor, and the F&I manager, the person you meet with after, will use every dollar of remaining room to sell you products you didn't know you needed. That vendor is never going to show you anything under $300. Every single thing they show you from that point forward will be priced at $300. Why would they show you the $200 option? This is exactly what happens at a car dealership. The moment you announce a budget, the salesperson stops showing you options at or below that number and starts showing you options at or just above it. Your ceiling becomes their floor. But here's the deeper issue. Your stated budget also gives the F&I manager, that's the finance and insurance person you meet with later, a roadmap for upselling you. If you said you were comfortable up to $500 a month and your car payment is coming in at $460, they now know they have $40 of room in your budget to sell you an extended warranty, a gap insurance product, paint protection, tire and wheel coverage. The F&I office, by the way, is the most profitable room in a car dealership. It's not even close. A skilled F&I manager can add $1,500 to $3,000 of back-end profit to a deal in a single 30-minute conversation with a buyer who walked in thinking the negotiation was over. And here's something the industry genuinely doesn't want you to know. Most of the products sold in the F&I office are available cheaper elsewhere. Extended warranties can be purchased through third-party providers. Gap insurance, which covers the difference between what your car is worth and what you owe if it's totaled, can be purchased through your insurance company for a fraction of what a dealership charges. A dealership might charge you $800 to $1,200 for gap insurance. Your insurance company might charge you $30 a year. The reason these products are sold in the F&I office instead of the showroom floor is deliberate. You've already made the emotional decision. You've already been in the building for 2 or 3 hours. You're tired. You're relieved that the hard part is over. Your guard is completely down. That's when they sell you things. What do you say when they ask about your budget? You say, I'm focused on finding the right vehicle at the right price. I'll sort the financial details once I know what I want. And when you're in the F&I office, simple rule, decline everything. Ask for the documents to take home and review. Anything worth buying will still be worth buying tomorrow. If they tell you the offer expires when you leave, that's a sales tactic, not a policy. Question number 5, have you been pre-approved? Do you know your credit score? This is the one that makes me genuinely frustrated when I think about how many people get hurt by it, because this information feels benign. It feels like something you should share, like it'll make the process smoother. Here's the problem. When you walk in and say you haven't been pre-approved or that you're not sure of your exact credit score, you have just handed the finance department almost unlimited flexibility. Remember what we talked about with dealer reserve, the buy rate versus the contract rate? Here's where not knowing your credit score costs people real money in a very specific, concrete way. Let's say your credit score is 720. That puts you in a tier that qualifies for, let's call it a 6.5% rate for most lenders. But you don't know that. You walk in, you tell them you haven't been pre-approved, and they run your credit. The finance manager now knows you qualify for 6.5, but they quote you 8.9. They tell you that's the best they could find given your profile. You have no way to verify that because you don't know your actual score. You don't know which tier you're in, and they have no legal obligation to tell you the buy rate, the actual rate the lender offered. This has been documented in enforcement actions by the Consumer Protection Bureau. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's a structural feature of how dealership financing works, and it disproportionately affects people who haven't done their research. Now, some people walk in knowing their score and still get taken because there's actually a second layer to this. Even if you know your score, do you know what tier that score puts you in for auto lending? Do you know what rates are being offered right now in the market? Do you have a competing pre-approval offer to use as a benchmark? Without that benchmark, you're negotiating blind. You're accepting whatever rate they offer because you have no reference point. Here's what actually happened to someone I know, and this story is more common than you'd think. They walked in, financing got handled, and drove home in a new car. A week later, curiosity got the better of them, and they checked their original pre-approval from their credit union. The dealer's rate was 2 full percentage points higher. On a $35,000 loan over 60 months, that difference is roughly $2,200 in additional interest, just gone. Not from bad intent on the buyer's part, just from not knowing the benchmark.
And here's the last thing I want to say about this question because it connects to something really uncomfortable. There's documented evidence that dealerships have historically offered higher rate markups to buyers they perceive as less financially sophisticated, which often maps onto demographic characteristics. This has resulted in regulatory settlements against major auto lending companies. It's not ancient history, it's something regulators are actively monitoring right now in 2026. The antidote is simple. Know your score, get pre-approved, have that offer in writing when you walk in. Okay, I want to zoom out for a second because I think there's a deeper conversation worth having here. Everything I've described today, the dealer reserve, the payment manipulation, the F&I upsells, the CRM systems profiling your buying behavior before you even arrive, none of it is technically illegal. That's what makes it so insidious. These are legal practices. They're just designed so that the information asymmetry always benefits the seller. And here's the stat that I keep coming back to. A car salesperson practices negotiating every single day, multiple times a day, with hundreds of buyers every year. You buy a car maybe once every 5 or 6 years. You are not practicing. They are. But here's the mindset shift that actually matters. This isn't about being suspicious of every person at every dealership. There are genuinely good salespeople and good dealers out there who operate transparently. The point isn't paranoia. The point is preparation.
In 2026, before you even call a dealership, they already know you. Their CRM flags you as high intent based on how many times you viewed the same listing. By the time you walk in, the salesperson knows more about your buying psychology than you do. That's not paranoia, that's the system. Knowing this exists doesn't mean you can turn it off, but it does mean you should think carefully about what you're clicking on and how your online behavior reads before an in-person visit. None of this works because you're careless. It works because it's engineered to bypass the part of your brain that makes good decisions. Knowing that is half the defense. The other half is the next 90 seconds. These aren't weaknesses to be ashamed of, they're human, but they are exploitable. And knowing that they're being exploited by design, by trained professionals, that awareness alone is a form of protection. All right, let me give you an actual actionable playbook. 5 things to do before you step into a dealership in 2026. Step 1. Know your credit score and get pre-approved. Use your credit union or bank. Get the rate in writing. This is your financial benchmark and your protection against dealer reserve manipulation. Step 2. Get your trade-in appraised independently. CarMax, Carvana, and most dealers' own online tools will give you a number. Get 3 numbers. Write them down. Never reveal the trade-in until after the new car price is agreed. Step 3. Research the out-the-door price, not the sticker price. Use Edmunds or KBB to find what others have paid for the exact trim and package you want in your market. Walk in with a number in mind. The out-the-door price includes taxes, fees, and registration. Negotiate that number, not a monthly payment. Step 4. Go during the week if you can. Dealerships are less busy on Tuesday and Wednesday. Less foot traffic means the salesperson has more time and more motivation to make a deal. End of the month also works in your favor because salespeople are trying to hit quotas. Step 5. Decide in advance that you will not buy on the first visit. This single decision takes the urgency pressure completely off the table. If they know you're not buying today, the manufactured scarcity tactics don't work. You're just there to gather information. This also gives you 24 hours to review any paperwork before you sign, which is almost always worth it. And one bonus thing. When you're in the F&I office, you can simply say, "I'd like to take the warranty and product information home and review it before I decide." Any legitimate dealer will allow this. If they tell you the offer is only available at signing, that's a high-pressure tactic, not a real policy. Look, here's the thing I want you to walk away with today. The car buying process is not designed for you. It is designed by people who do this every day for people who do this every few years. The information asymmetry is real. The psychological tactics are real. The hidden profit mechanisms are real. But none of that means you're powerless. You just need to know the game before you play it. And the game, at its core, is about information. Who has it, who doesn't, and who can control what gets revealed and when. Every single thing I've described today can be neutralized with preparation. Get pre-approved, research the price, know your trade-in value, separate the negotiations, and never, ever answer those 5 questions the way the dealership wants you to. Because here's the real math. A car is probably the second largest purchase most people make in their lifetime. The average car loan in 2026 is somewhere around $40,000. Being unprepared in that negotiation can easily cost you $3, $4, $5,000. That's not a rounding error. That's a vacation. That's an emergency fund. That's months of investing. You earned that money. You should keep it. If even one of these saves you money on your next car, that thumbs up takes 2 seconds and it genuinely keeps this channel alive. Subscribe because the next video covers something even more expensive than a car dealership. And drop a comment. Which of these 5 have you already fallen for? I read every one. I'll see you in the next one.